I think I'm a special one.
Fabregas, lovely ball threaded through. Costa, what a start!
Frank Lampard to win it. He's got it.
He's done it! The greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club.
Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here. Hope you're doing really well on this Monday. It is the start of the international break, which is a bit frustrating, but I guess the silver lining is it's the last one till March of 25. So we get through this. It's full club football in Chelsea until then, which is obviously a positive. Today, new show, we're going to be talking about Christopher Nkunku a lot. That is kind of the big story today. This has been bubbling under the surface for, I think, a few weeks now regarding his playtime. And now several stories actually have dropped regarding him considering his future and actually an exit could be on the horizon for him. So we'll get into that and I'll give you my kind of extended thoughts on the Nkunku situation because I do think there's a lot to say about it. We'll also start off and I'll just talk a little bit more about the Arsenal game, the start to the season. We're going to be delving a lot during this international break into Chelsea's start to the season and reflecting on what has been so far because with 11 games in the Premier League, you add onto that the Conference League and the Carabao Cup, it's quite a good sample size to now go and reflect about Chelsea compared to the previous two international breaks. So that's why I think this is a great time of the season to reflect. You know, we're not halfway through, but you do have now a sizable chunk to analyse, so we'll be doing that. If you're new around here, a Chelsea fan, want to see the latest Chelsea content, get involved in the community, hit that subscribe button, give me a like on the show. It really helps get more people involved in the community. You can listen to the show on the podcast feed if you can. Available on all your favourite podcast platforms. Just search Son of Chelsea. And if you are listening that way, thank you so much for tuning in. Please do give us a positive rating review. Really helps the show out. You can support the show on Patreon. And just a quick shout out as well, once again, for Alloy Collectors. We are now coming up to the festive season. You know, even today I was doing a little bit of Christmas shopping myself. And I think this is a great Christmas gift for someone, and you can use my discount code SonOfChelsea to get yourself a metal Chelsea home shirt. I think it's really thoughtful. Also officially licensed, and this is one of the retro ones from the 90s. You can get this season's kit, you can get last season's kit, which I have behind me in the studio. I think it's a great full collectible and something you can also customize with the name of your favorite player, a number on the back as well, and present. So if you've got a family member, a friend, a partner that you want to give a Chelsea gift to, or just get it for yourself, use my discount code at Alloy Collectors, link in the description box below, to get yourself 15% off Son of Chelsea, all caps, in the checkout. So let's just quickly wrap up the Arsenal game and just a little bit more on it, because I spoke a lot in my review yesterday about how I don't think this is a bad situation for Chelsea, given where Chelsea are in the Premier League table. And yes, I addressed this directly because I've seen it a number of times, and I don't think, it's not that factually it's wrong, it's just there's more to it. And that's the case that, yeah, sure, the points gap between like 3rd and 12th currently is quite ridiculous. It has been a really unpredictable Premier League season so far, even by Premier League standards. When you look at a number like that, it's quite crazy. And of course that could massively fluctuate. And yes, if Chelsea were after this international break to nosedive in form, you know, Chelsea could find themselves plummeting down the table. But they could also look at this currently, and we could look at this and say we're 3rd after that unpredictable start, after the fact we've played a lot of good teams in that period, and come out of it still in 3rd, with a platform after the international break to push on and hopefully cement our place in the top 4. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I mean, maybe you'll look at it another way. I also can't take away the context and the broader depth for me of what I felt during pre-season. You know, how I felt going into the season. What were my expectations? My expectations, to be clear, were Champions League football. It's not like I was saying, we're going to finish 8th and there's no chance of Champions League football. That was never my prediction, or you can go and watch my preseason predictions. I think I had us 5th, which, you know, could in a certain scenario, based on coefficient, give you Champions League. It was just more concern over Chelsea's instability, more players coming in, Maresca being a new coach, doubts over him, and other doubts within the squad. So with that sort of prediction, with that sort of barometer for me, I think I'd be a bit hypocritical to now turn around looking at that Premier League table, and given what we've seen so far, which have been some good wins, attack-wise I think we've been good. Defensively is the big concern, of course. And turn around and go, Maresca's crap, the whole team's crap. No, this is not the great Chelsea teams. This is not Conte's great Chelsea team. This is not Mourinho's great Chelsea team. but no one says it was. No one says it is. And if you are saying it is, then I think you're going to be proven wrong, unfortunately, during the course of the season. However, with that context, with what was expected, I just think that you look at the fact that Chelsea are in that top three, there is a platform to build on. I just think it's unfair for me to kind of now come on the show and say it's awful, it's terrible. If it was terrible, Chelsea would have been battered yesterday. If it was terrible, Chelsea would have lost to Man United. I think they would have lost more heavily at Liverpool like they did last year. We wouldn't have beaten Newcastle, who are now picking up some form again. Things would have been a lot worse if the team wasn't performing in any sort of way. So I think that's a fair point. And I still maintain that even if it's a small gap in points, you just cannot tell me if Chelsea were 12th currently, the mood would be the same and it would be the same logic. It only takes us 3 points to get back up to third. Sure, you can say that, but the mood, I think, would be radically different, given, say, where Spurs are currently. And listen, I'm not saying that we want to be where Spurs are. We should be aiming a lot higher than them. But just in terms of the context of the narrative and the discussions I've seen, I think it's fair to say things are at a decent place. I think they can get better. But one place I think, they could get better, they could get worse, is Christopher Nkunku. Now, Jason Burt reporting for The Telegraph that Nkunku is considering his Chelsea future amid growing frustration under Enzo Maresca. It says in the piece that Nkunku was the subject of an inquiry from Man United over the summer, but there was no official approach and he stayed at Chelsea to fight for his place. But the French international has grown increasingly frustrated with his lack of opportunities at Stamford Bridge. Delving a little bit more into the numbers, although the 26-year-old has made 17 appearances for Chelsea this season, scoring 10 goals, making him top scorer, he has only started one Premier League game, which was the defeat by Man City in August, the first fixture of the campaign. Since then, Nkunku has come on 9 times as a substitute, including the 88th minute of Sunday's 1-1 draw at home to Arsenal. He's made 7 starts for Chelsea, 5 in the Conference League, 2 in the League Cup, which Maresca has effectively used as game time for what he constitutes his B team. So this is not a big surprise to me that this has become a bigger issue, because Nkunku is, I think, a high profile, high caliber and better than a B team player. And he was not bought, I think, by Chelsea at the time, and the expectation of him by Chelsea fans. Of course, we had to wait a long time to see him play a consistent run of games because he was injured for most of last season. It's, I think it's obvious that his stock and kind of his expectation, and also I think it's fair based on his output for Chelsea this season and even from last season with small minutes, for him to expect to be a bigger name for Chelsea. And his probably expectation and kind of what he'll look at in his career is, I made this move from Leipzig to become a massive player, not to just be second or third fiddle to Chelsea's main striker and to see myself just play Conference League games. Like, he sees himself, I think, as a big Champions League player, someone who should be deemed one of the best attackers in the Premier League. And it's not like Nkunku has played those B or C games and hasn't delivered. He's Chelsea's top goal scorer. If you could discount those goals and say, they're against weaker opposition. I mean, one of them did win Chelsea a very tight game away at Bournemouth and showed his quality very distinctly in what was a potentially difficult game for Chelsea, and he won that by his contribution off the bench. So I think, for Nkunku and for Maresca, I've said in recent weeks, I've been a little bit surprised, and I have been a little bit surprised the number of times I've looked at that bench. Maresca has made a sub, and the first sub has not been Christopher Nkunku. I understand, sure, you can add the context and the fact that you shouldn't really be taking off a defensive midfielder for Christopher Nkunku all the time because there's a balance issue there, and that is one of the things that has kind of been discussed so far this year, of how you get Nkunku in the team alongside, say, Jackson and especially Cole Palmer, and you want to get all your best and most influential attackers on the pitch, but then also you don't want to sacrifice balance to the fact where Chelsea look lopsided, and already a defensively maybe vulnerable team becomes even more vulnerable, and the concern that would come from there. I understand that. However, I think it's valid for me to look at the last 2 weeks and look at a player like Mykhailo Mudryk, who I don't think delivers when it really matters. I don't think delivers at a higher calibre of game. And also, if we look at the last run of games, where Chelsea haven't been as good, it's been against higher calibre of opposition. We lost to Liverpool. We didn't beat Man United. Yeah, sure, we did beat Newcastle. We went out to them in the League Cup, which Nkunku did play. And I said on the night, I thought that was one of his poorest performances for Chelsea. But then, of course, it took him till the 88th minute, or Maresca until the 88th minute, to bring on Nkunku against Arsenal in a game where I think Nkunku should have been brought on a lot earlier for Jackson. I'm a fan of Jackson, but I don't think Jackson has had great performances in the past 2 weeks. I think that's where Nkunku validly will turn around and go, why aren't I getting myself into that first team? You know, I'm scoring when you're playing me in the B team. When can I progress to the A team? And where's that competition for Nicholas Jackson? I'm a firm believer that Jackson has validly been Chelsea's first choice striker so far this year. I think his goal involvement, I think his all-round play. We've talked a lot about Jackson, but there still needs to be competition for him and stress of his position. There absolutely needs to be. So there's at least one position there. If Palmer goes down with an injury, I think Nkunku should be rightly right there as kind of the second choice number 10. But then also I think a broader conversation, as we've seen in recent weeks where teams have really focused in on Cole Palmer, of how do you bring Chelsea's threat and vary up the way we attack. And that's, I think, a concern of some people, and I've seen it in my comments as well. Why can't Nkunku be that guy? I felt during the summer that was what Nkunku was going to be. He was going to kind of be that extra threat to Chelsea where, yeah, you got to worry about Cole Palmer, but if you shut down Cole Palmer, maybe there's space becomes available for Nkunku, and we know how dangerous he can be in and around that 6-yard box. That was kind of my hope, and I think that maybe the conversation for the next period of the season is for Maresca to find a way to get Nkunku, Palmer and Jackson all in the starting 11. It may mean that Palmer starts off on the right, but that's what he was doing under Pochettino, and we know he would have the freedom to drift centrally. I've been really encouraged by the way both Romeo Lavia and especially Caicedo have offered protection, and I think they could offer protection if you do have slight concerns that in kind of that attacking midfield, number 10 area, maybe you'll have a lopsided situation where there's a width problem, which I understand. However, I think we do have defensive cover. And I just think that for Nkunku, I just think it'd be a travesty, really, if he just leaves Chelsea, because at the end of the day, our transfer recruitment situation has become so muddled and we've bought so many players in a short period of time that we almost forgot we had this guy, this amazing talent. Fundamentally, I think Nkunku is a good goal scorer. I think he's a ruthless player inside the 6-yard box. I don't think you help your case. I've always, I know it's groundbreaking analysis here. I don't think you should let those players walk out the door. If he's putting up these numbers right now without, being a main player, I think of what could be if he did become a main player in Chelsea's starting 11. And it's the point of having this big kind of bulky and apparently strong squad is you should be able to rotate them. And when one player drops off, Maduake's performances haven't been as good in recent weeks. Isn't there a place there with Nkunku coming in? Maybe not as a right winger, but at least in terms of just in the team. I think that's where Nkunku is rightly frustrated. So I really hope this situation gets resolved in the right way, and the way for me the situation has to be resolved is Nkunku getting into that Chelsea first team and becoming a bigger part of Maresca's plans, because it's not like Chelsea are so obsessed with control under Maresca that we just cannot allow any opportunities at the other end. Chelsea have not been defensively stable this year. I'm not saying we've been defensively atrocious to a point where it's like the worst Chelsea defence I've ever seen, but we haven't been like resolute at the back, have we? So I think the argument that if you bring in Nkunku, everything's going to collapse and you're just concerned about a lopsided team, I think Nkunku is too good. I think he's just too good to ignore. It's not the case with João Felix, where João Felix, I think, blows hot and cold. And, 1 week you'll get a good performance from him, 1 week you won't. And he's got a real problem of executing in the final third. I don't think Nkunku has that problem. I think Nkunku is a level raiser. I think he is someone who will make Chelsea's team better and more threatening and more dynamic, which I think has been maybe an accusation against higher caliber opposition in recent weeks. And we need that, right? Because we need to get a big win sooner rather than later. And I think Nkunku, in terms of percentages, I think having Nkunku in the team raises the potential of that happening more than him not being in the team and then this festering even more and he ends up leaving. I personally just I'm a firm believer that Nkunku needs to start being integrated into this first team a lot more. And, you talk about so far this season, you talk about kind of broader analysis of my frustration so far this season. I think it has been that Nkunku, in the first few weeks of the season, fine, you're adapting, Maresca's adapting to a new situation, and Jackson's playing really well and he's scoring goals. I understand it's kind of difficult, but when those goals dry up a little bit, that's when it really needs to be a quick kind of competition of Nkunku's coming in, and then hopefully he settles and kind of cements his place in the first team. Because I think the numbers and the evidence of the season, it's not like Nkunku has had bundles of opportunities in the first team, in the Premier League, that is, in the A team, and he's failed at them. The numbers and the appearances just don't back that up. So I feel until we have and see that, you can't say that Nkunku has wasted his opportunity here. So that's my feelings. I'm pretty strong on it. What do you guys think in the comments below? That is it for today's news show. We'll be back later this week. We'll be back tomorrow for another news show. We'll have hopefully collab, speaking to some great Chelsea people about the season so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow me across the socials at SonOfChelsea, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.